turns out the pilot was a money laundering scheme for diamond heists that his mates were doing. He was part of a whole ring that was scamming old people out of their jewelry and diamonds.
Jesus.
And it's like head honcho.
Continue exclusive.
Yep. Head honcho got like.
Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 8 of Press Any Button to Continue. My name is Keith and I'm joined by my co-host Nisha. Today we have a very special guest. Some say he will have you hoisting the sails and scrubbing the poop decks in no time. Others say his dad jokes are only overshadowed by his eternal need to be a Pokemon master. To this day, the only thing he has mastered is his ability to masturbate. This actor quiz show host has a certain affiliation for a little game called What's in the Box? And let me tell you, the only thing that's ever in there is a scam. That's right. Known formerly as Twitch's #1 dial-up streamer, this pirate legend has it all. Good looks, a sense of humor, and of all the jokes you could ever want. For example, I had a teacher called Mrs. Turtle. Strange name, but she taught us well. Self-described as the pinnacle of entertainment, everything good about someone rolled into one. Humble, a good eater, a treasure, but first and foremost, nothing but a gamer. His Mario 64 16-star BLJ speedruns are only surpassed by his need to be loved. That's right, today I'm honored to say we have one of my favorite streamers, Mr. Barbosaonline, also known as Alex. Welcome to Press Any Button to Continue.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much for having me, boys. What an introduction.
Brilliant, man. That was some intro he did there. That was some intro.
I've frequented Alex's streams a few times. I know what he's all about, and I know, his deep-seated need just for me to give him kisses and hugs at all times, you know?
It is true. I require constant love and attention, as every good Twitch streamer does.
It's true.
There was a lot in that intro. Super Mario Bros. Or Super Mario 64 speedruns, did you say?
Yeah, that's something I've done.
Yeah. What do you do? Like 120 stars or just this?
He's not that good, Nisha. He's not that good. Don't be giving him too much credit.
I just did 16-star runs. Right. I think at some point last year I was like, I want to learn a speed run, and cool. Super Mario 16-star. I still think is one of the funnest speedruns to watch, and I think it's especially fun to do.
It's super fun to watch.
How can you do it in 60? You have to glitch through a door.
So this is kind of interesting because I guess Nisha is such a classic retro gamer, right? That these type of new fandangle discoveries in the years of breaking games are kind of a little bit not entirely known to you, right?
I'm actually playing through Super Mario 64 at the moment. I have about 60. I think I actually have 64 stars. So I'm close to getting to the 70-star door, which is the last Bowser door, I think.
Well, you see, that's the silly way of doing it. Alex, give him a rundown very quickly on how to beat this game in about 16 minutes.
So if you need to beat it in about 16 minutes, the thing you really need to master is the BLJ, or the backwards long jump, which basically involves you doing a long jump in a backwards direction up a set of stairs, because there's a cap on Mario's speed going forward, but it's uncapped going backwards. And you can gain little bits of speed off each step, and you basically get enough speed to propel yourself backwards through the 30-star door and the 70-star door. So you can just cheat your way through the stairs, blast through the door. And it's the most
stressful part of doing it. I have seen this man when he looks like he's furiously wanking with the fucking controller. He's just fucking, because he times himself when he does. He has a clock, and it's like you're trying to beat the time, and he's fucking slapping on in the BLJ backwards long jump, trying to mash Mario through a door. And it breaks your little heart.
It does, because it's like there is an exact science to it, but I'm not nearly skilled enough, so it's a lot of just button mashing and praying, and the whole crux of the run really hinges on that moment. So,
oh really?
Yeah, so you can be like 15, 18 minutes into the run, and then the BLJ gets messed up and you have to start again. It's just
I didn't know what a BLJ meant for ages, and I was too afraid to ask because I thought it was like big long blowjob jumps or something, you know what I mean? Big long BLJ blades.
What's your I'm hooked on this now. Sorry,
we've missed getting to know Alex. Forget that. It's Mario fucking speedruns for the rest of the day.
What's your fastest time, Alex?
My fastest time at the minute is 21 minutes 42 seconds. Which is a respectable time. They say to be like really respectable, you need sub 20. But there's a couple of strats that I don't use because they're just a little bit above my skill range.
And will we be getting a return to some Mario 16?
Yeah, it's been a minute. I get an urge to do it probably like once every 4 months. So now after this conversation today, I'll probably go on then. I'll do one run.
Well,
I'll do
check
one
them
run.
out. Twitch.tv/Barbosaonline.
That's the very one. That's the link.
Now, before we get into, your creative side of life, we do like to explore the realms of your history. We like to get to know our guest by deep delving into their historic gaming memories. So, I mean, the first thing we used to like to little tip on is, what is your earliest gaming memories? Can you remember the first thing you had? And what is the sexiest video game console?
All right. So my first gaming memories, I remember my dad coming back from a business trip and he brought me back a Game Boy Color with Pokemon Yellow on it.
I mean, that's like pretty fucking hard to beat.
It's so up there. And I even remember, like, at that young age of maybe 8 years old, I was playing through Pokemon Yellow and I absolutely loved it. And my best mate at the time, James, I went to his house and he had Pokemon Red. And I played in it and I was like, this is garbage. This is terrible.
Where the fuck is Pikachu?
Where's Pikachu? There's no Pokemon following you. Also, Pokemon Yellow gave like individual colors to each of the towns, whereas Pokemon Red and Blue just had like the red and blue hue over everything. So I was like, there's no variety. There's nothing changing here.
Yeah.
But so Pokemon Yellow was my
which
first
we discovered
memory.
That all the towns are named after a color, which took a long time, and you have Pallet Town as the intro for it.
That's
it. As well, I don't know if you remember this, boys, but the Pokemon sprites in red and blue are cursed compared to the yellow counterparts.
Yes. Yeah,
they are completely different.
Like, there's the very traditional, like, thick Pikachu and thick Raichu. And in blue and yellow, he's really got his belly sticking out. Compared to Pokemon Yellow, they kind of streamlined a few of the sprites a little bit more.
So I think what happened there is that the Pokemon Red and Blue came out before the TV show, and then I think the TV show happened as Yellow came out, and then Yellow took the more the actual TV show designs rather than some of the originals, and which I just found out. Game. Oh fuck! Like, imagine just getting a game. What color was your Game Boy Color?
My Game Boy Color was lime green.
Oh, nice.
I remember it looked great with the yellow on the back.
It did, I'd say it does. That's hot, man.
It was wonderful.
Do you ever try and stick your pee-pee in it or anything like that?
Not quite. Maybe my fingers and my tongue every now and again.
Okay, that's fair. We always like to know, has anyone licked... it seems to be a reoccurring theme. Have you done anything inappropriate with your Game Boys?
Well, I mean, I guess that goes in nicely to what is the sexiest console.
Yes, it does. It does.
Sexiest gaming console. Now, Barbosa's going to answer in a second, but I just need to know, like...
What's mine?
Have you thought about it a little bit more of, like, what would you take on a date, for dinner?
Oh, what's the sexiest video game console? Fucking hell. That's a tough one.
I can see, like, so much, like, arousal going to your eyes as you think of each different one.
There is. I'm thinking of when the light turns on, when you turn it on. No, I know what it is. It's the fucking... it's not very retro, maybe not, but it is the Xbox 360 that's, like... has that, like, shiny black...
Oh, yeah.
That with the, like, chrome...
Got that piano chrome bad boy. Is that the one that I have here?
Yeah, I think it is the one. Yeah.
It's got the little chrome top on it as well.
Slick as hell, man.
Oh my god, and it's got that big power brick that can just step on you and fucking crush you. Oh, fucking, I'd love to just put my, like, fucking balls underneath it. You know the power brick I'm talking about? It's bigger than the console itself.
I know the exact one.
It looks like a fucking...
What are they for, by the way?
Because they couldn't fit it in the console and then not have it be a fucking giant beast. So it's literally like
really?
The power unit that should be in the console. It's kind of like a hemorrhoid out of an Xbox. It's like... It's just got like
a small bit of prolapse.
It's a prolapsed anus coming out the back of an Xbox, and then you want to smash your testes with the fucking power block. And good choice, by the way, because it's got that big, like, long shit hanging out the back of it like a fish. Bosa, what's yours?
So I've been thinking about this question a lot because I'm a long time listener, and I know this is a question that you ask your guests. And in my younger years, I remember having a very, very visceral reaction to my first Xbox 360 Elite. Like, because I had the Xbox already for the black one. I had it already for like 18 months, and I went around my mate's house, and he had an Elite, and I was like, "What is that? Why is your Xbox black? Why does it look so much better than mine? The green glowing out of it just looks incredible." But I do think that was early in my youth, so it's kind of like when you fancy a classic beauty, but as you mature older, you let your own taste kind of come through a little bit more. And I think looking back on it, I never owned one for very long. I never had it too long in my hands. But the PSP, I think, like, with the cartridge shape as well, like it had that cassetteness to it. You get that kind of old vintage retro sound. And the analog stick was also the speaker, so you could feel the vibrations coming through your thumbs. It was
wait. Was the analog stick the speaker?
Was it?
Yeah, wasn't it?
No
way. I think the way it was that it looked like
it looked like, it must have...
For you, whatever got you
Pavloved me into thinking that the sound vibrations were coming through. I was like, this baby's trying to speak to me.
Did you ever have a PSP, Nisha?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I remember my mom bought one at like a car boot sale or something. Like I'm talking about 15 years ago, I'd say. And she got a PSP and a load of games for like a fucking $5 or something.
That was probably the one that I sold to go out on a night of drinking
probably
that I regretted for the rest of my fucking life.
Yeah. But it's very cool, and you're totally right. The games are almost cartridge-esque.
They're
like
mini discs, yeah,
but
in like their own special.
You know when you pop it open and it does the little flick with the game pops out.
Oh, and you're like,
feels
just
good.
a little. And it like, oh god, that the PSP though was very like, the PSP had a very like mechanical inside though. I felt like it was gonna break every time you put that shit in though.
Yeah.
But it was so gorgeous. I remember watching Spider-Man 2. The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man on it, because remember you could watch the MD movies. Yeah. And I was like, the screen was so good. Also, I think for a lot of people, the PSPs was a lot of people's very first voyeur into the world of porn.
What? Wait, hold on. You could watch porn on a PSP?
You could, because it had a browser on it, right? And a lot of parents didn't know this. So during those teenage years, now, I was very wild, man. I remember I was looking up like bikini girls.
Oh, not the bikini
very wild.
Bikini. My googling was like really thought out. I was like, what's the dirtiest thing I could do? It's like, well, fucking a lass in a bikini. Yeah, it's just like, there was this TikTok I was watching the other day where a parent was going through their 8-year-old's iPad, and one of the search histories was like chocolate sauce on titties.
Oh my god, you're a fucking joke, Lord.
I was like, fuck, and the dad was just hysterically fucking laughing.
Yeah,
because it's like, it's just shit you hear around the place.
Of
you
course,
no one knows what they're getting into.
I didn't realize I had a browser.
Yeah, I feel like I missed out there. I had to draw all my porn on PictoChat on my DS. You know, not quite as sophisticated as the PSP. Limited to my own imagination. So
that's fair, but that's a very creative wank. Do you know what I mean? And that's
a challenging one every now and again.
I can imagine. So yeah, there's like 4 pixels of a pair of tats on that thing, and you're you're just fucking hoping for the best. You're hoping you make it on the touch screen. Touch. That's the dual screen advantage.
Yeah, that is the power of the dual screen.
That is the power of the dual screen, the dual wank, some would say.
Jesus Christ.
Nisha,
how did we get here? How did we get to
wanking
on a
console?
PSP and on a
I bet it was the Wii, was it?
Nintendo
Did you fucking use the browser on the Wii, did you?
I didn't have the internet for a very, very long time. Like, I remember having an Xbox 360 and a PS3 and a PSP when I was living in... When I first moved out, I think I was 21, and we didn't have any internet in the house. Because I remember it was when I got Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and I didn't realise that it was an online game, and everyone was talking about this game, like seriously, for like about 6 months. I didn't realise.
Like, I don't know how to play with the other people. I
didn't realise it was an online. Like, I knew you could play online, but I didn't realise that's what the whole thing was.
Yeah, that was.
And there's me playing through the campaign about 10 times, just thinking, oh yeah. This is a great game. I had no fucking internet. I didn't know. I didn't realise.
That's gas. So, but we're using the back of video game magazines where I had those little pictures of text, you know, do you remember them?
The little pixelated things, yeah.
Oh boy.
Were you a video game magazine buyer?
I wasn't. I was thinking about this. Like, a lot of my gaming through my youth, I felt like I found things out very organically. I wasn't necessarily pursuing gaming knowledge outside of what was given to me through my friends or what I experienced in games. Everything was very much off a recommendation, going to a sleepover here, and you like the game, and then you spend the next 3 months trying to convince your parents to buy it.
Yeah.
And all the rest of it. But yeah, I'd say I probably didn't really get into gaming till I was probably like 18 or 19 or so, and I was like, okay, this is actually like a hobby that people are into, and the conversation can go a little bit deeper other than, do you play Pokemon? Yes or no?
Yeah.
And moving on.
And what kind of, so when you got into it then, what was the console you were playing, and what were the games you were playing when you kind of really got into it?
If you were to give us like a Bosa history of your game development throughout your teenage life.
I mean, it started very similar to Keith, holidays to Spain playing Pokemon.
Cool.
I remember being super grateful that when Ruby and Sapphire came out for Pokemon, I was in Spain. And it actually came out in Spain a day earlier than it did in the UK.
No way.
So I managed to get it a day early. And
Deadly.
it also taught me Spanish because the game came in Spanish.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So were you actually learning how to speak Spanish through playing Pokemon?
I was learning Spanish through playing Pokemon, which was insane. Which was a very, very fun time.
Brilliant.
And then then it was a lot of Pokemon, and then Xbox 360s came out, and I think similarly to most schools, there was that old school console war of Xbox 360 versus PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
But I was on the Xbox side. Lots of
man.
Yeah. A lot of Modern Warfare, a lot of Nazi zombies, and then kind of exams came around and everything quietened down a little bit. And then I think once we got into sixth form, it was more about chasing skirt and trying to get beer rather than focusing on video games.
That's what happens. I feel like that's just a general theme that happens to everyone at some point. There's like this kind of falling out of, because I think because like, your social life, you know, if you're lucky enough to like delve into it after being a gamer for like 8 years, if you can make like, you know, friends to go out with and hang out, you kind of takes over your life for a little bit, you know?
Yep.
It seems to be the natural. Anyone we've talked to has like, you know, we played video games until you're a teenager, and then you hit about 16, 17, and then it's kind of like, oh, I want to hang out with friends, I want to try and get some beer, I want to, you know, do the things you shouldn't be doing, and then you do that, and then you just eventually come back. When you've done all that, you just come back to it. You just
come back to it.
I'm tired.
Yeah, I think around like 17, 18, there's a lot of like new stuff that gets injected into your life, whether that's friends driving or sex or...
I mean, a car does change things, you know, even if it's not your own car, you know what I mean? Like, there's about 16 people
to a car, you know,
in the back of a Polo just like fucking gangbanging down the road. Which is a whole vibe and experience.
The natural transition. I've just realised that most people we've talked to, and ourselves included, have all gone down that route of you play video games, but then it's party mode, and then you're like, I'll kind of come back to video games and just fucking chill.
Yeah. Now you're probably still a little bit in between. Like, you're not 30 yet, Bo, so sure you're not.
I'm not. I'm 28 years young, feeling good still.
So you're on the cusp of, you know, having more of those mornings where you wake up and you say, "Sweet Jesus Christ, what am I doing?" You know, you're wiping you're like the smell of your hand as you wipe the spit off your mouth. You're breathing with one lung collapsed, and there's just blood on the pillow. Like, what's happening?
Oh man, I've had a couple nights, a couple mornings I've woken up and I felt close to that. Thankfully, not
and
quite
then
completely
that's why
broken.
I say, man, 30 is like being 13 again. You're like, yep, watching Pokemon Indigo League, no problems. I'm never hungover again, baby.
That's it, living the good life.
Now, I heard you mention the term you used to have sleepovers earlier, and I believe you have a little. Well, now, first of all, I mean, Alex, Mr. Bosa, is a big Pokemon lover. Like, is that your favorite franchise of all time?
Yeah, I think it is. I struggle to like quantify sometimes what my favorite franchise is, whether it's like the one I've spent the most time with, the one I've enjoyed the most. I think Pokemon is definitely the one that's ingrained in my blood the most. It still brings me joy, even if, I mean, we know we're a retro gaming podcast, but the new games have got a lot of gripes and issues. But I've got that Pokemon needle deep inside of me, and I can't stop buying everything they put out.
Pokemon crack.
Yeah, it's problematic.
I mean, and just to describe for viewers, you're wearing a Pokemon shirt right now.
I'm literally wearing a Pokemon shirt right now. There's Pokemon plushes around my room.
I can see Snorlax just sleeping away in the background there.
Yep.
You also have, Anisha, I don't know if you know this, but Barbosa's favorite Pokemon is Chikorita. Are you familiar?
It isn't. I can't stand with this slander, man.
Is Chikorita... Hold on. Yeah, because I'm a Gen 1er, right? I have very limited experience. Now, I did play Crystal, and it's a fantastic game, and I loved it, but I don't Who did I picked the fire Pokemon? Cyndaquil, yeah. So that's all I don't know.
So there was Chikorita, Totodile, and Cyndaquil, and Chikorita is the grass
Chikorita's
Pokemon.
on your shoulder there in your shirt.
Yeah,
is that right?
there you go. And there he is, a little plushie that he tortures.
Plush. Yeah, we bought this plush on stream, and for the audio listener here, we performed some surgery on it to rip the leaf off the top of its head and put it where I like to say it's belly button, but other people may.
It's where its clitorita is.
Clitorita, goddammit. But yeah, I use this little thing to take out my frustrations. It is a Pokemon that irritates me very much as someone who pretty much exclusively picks the grass type starters.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I just think it's not a very well balanced Pokemon and not very good or viable.
Who is your actual favorite Pokemon?
My actual favorite Pokemon, I like Swalot. He is a Gen 3 poison type. He's got a big moustache. He's big and purple, and he looks like he's wearing a golf sweater vest.
I'm going to look at what's he called?
Swalot. SWALOT, I think.
That's the one.
Right.
He has these dick sucking lips going on. He's got he's like, please suck my dick, blowjob. If the viewers listeners would like to also Google this, I know what you mean.
Reminds me of Peter Griffin almost.
It's got that art style to it for sure.
I got that little mustache. I kind of get creeped out when Pokemon, like the way there's like Jinx and stuff, and kind of like why does a Pokemon have a mustache, and what are those lips like? Are they lips? What are they doing?
Yeah, I think they're lips. They're ready to suck and spit.
Okay.
I mean, he literally learns moves called Swallow and Spit Up. So, there's two different play styles you can take with the Pokemon. There are two Pokemon moves called Spit Up and Swallow. I always have a great time on stream every now and again asking Pokemon moves that could also be sex moves. You get Pound,
so
Double Slap, Horn Drill. they just go on and gone. Gunk Shot. It's terrible.
Oh, fucking hell. What other good ones are there?
You can get Body Slam. It's always nice.
I don't like there's a couple of move sets that are like, they're a bad combination together as well, but I'm trying to think of some of the others.
Oh yeah, when someoone's like Sing, Poison Sting, Sleep Powder. That's when it gets a little bit dark.
The Pokemon world's fucked up, man.
Yep.
Oh my god! But also, because I remember Emma made me a brilliant Valentine's card before, which it was like she drew all the Pokemon, and it was like and each thing was like a Valentine thing. So the first one was like, "You make my Bulbasaur."
Yeah.
And then the other one was like, "You want to squeeze my Jigglypuffs or something?" And then there was a brilliant one that says like, I wish you were a Diglett and I was the ground so you could burrow inside of me. Oh my god, it's so good.
Oh boy.
And then there was one for Squirtle. It's just like the Squirtle was like, I want to be the squirt that's going to squirt your Squirtle or something like that. There was a few in there that were good anyway. Fucking hell. Anyway, this became a real horny Pokemon episode. This should just be called Horny Pokemon.
Oh boy. I mean, that'll get you clicks.
It actually would, because the internet, all right, where were we? We were discussing your history. We were discussing your...
I think the moment when I realized that gaming was something that people could speak freely about, and it didn't necessarily put you quite into as much of a box as I thought it would. Gaming I think is a much wider reaching thing than just stereotypical nerds or whatever.
Yeah.
My best mate at uni, he told me that him and his uni mates had started doing something called Pokemon, where basically they bought a Game Boy Advance and got a copy of Emerald, and they just left it on the toilet. So whenever they went for a poo, they'd play through Pokemon.
Yeah.
And they'd try to go through it together as housemates, but you could only play while you were taking a dump.
That is amazing. So it's like a 4-player Pokemon playthrough where every time you go for a shit, you're coming back and you don't know who's leveled up or who's in your party.
Exactly.
I love that.
That's actually really cool.
So many arguments.
Oh yeah.
Because they'd be like, why are you raising my Charmander? I wanted a Charmander to level up, and you're wasting your time with this Butterfree. Why?
That is, I love that idea.
But knowing his housemates and that they were a very different group of people, I was like, and they all like Pokemon and play Pokemon. It's like, and then I was like, okay, maybe I'll open up to some more people about this. And yeah, it just became much more of a typical conversation to have with people that I'd be meeting.
You go through that age, don't you, where you're like, I remember I've talked about it before about being in school and like someone slagging someone else about having Pokemon cards, and I had like loads of Pokemon cards in my bag, and I was just sitting there afraid to say anything because it's like, oh, you're a fucking nerd or whatever like that. And then when you get older and you're like, actually I don't give a fuck, and everyone else, like, people like this, you know what I mean? It's you can like what you like and you can talk about what you want to fucking talk about, and you don't have to be put into that fucking corner of being a nerd or being afraid to talk about what you enjoy and what makes you happy, because you don't care about what if someone else thinks it's silly or it's not what they like. Do you know what I mean?
100% agree.
I think the interesting thing about that as well is actually does the opposite. It's the irony of it, right? Like, because obviously, like I've said this before, when you're a teenager, loyalty is celebrated, and when you're older, uniqueness is a bit more celebrated. You know what I mean? There's that kind of transitioning period. But I also think the ironic thing is all those things you're hiding all the time stops you meeting your people as well, right? So it's like, you're kind of pretending to be someone else, so you're never get an opportunity to actually like draw in your crowd, right? So then when you like wear it as a badge of honor that like, I love Pokemon, I love video games, I do love nerdy things, and then you find your your crew and your people, and it doesn't have to be games, it can be fucking anything. It can be books, it can be fucking stamps, it can be whatever you want, it can be it can be anything, it can be movies, it can be whatever you want that something likes. But like once you're actually like, oh no, I actually am passionate about this, and and you get to enjoy it. And I also consider ourselves, because I've said this with my friends before, it's like, I said it to my buddy John, it's like, aren't we so lucky that we're like so into, we have things we're really passionate about that are like, that you can just enjoy day to day, and that like it doesn't harm anyone, you get a really good kick out of it, and it makes your day better, you know what I mean? It's like whether it's anime or whether it's video games, because there's a lot of people who I think that I know in my age category and older who still kind of struggle to find, they're like, oh, what do I do when I'm not working today, you know what I mean? Or how do I
what's the thing like?
Yeah, like, what are you into, which is a hard question for a lot of people, but still.
Massively.
Yeah, actually, I've never thought it. Like, I know a lot of my friends have very specific kind of hobbies, be it photography or, going to the gym, or one of my friends is, and it's nothing to do with streaming, but he's a Twitcher, I believe it's called. So he likes going bird watching.
Oh,
yeah, likes
cool.
going bird watching. I think that's what it's called. Like, you're going twitching or something like that. So he likes doing that. But yeah, it is strange when some people don't have their, like, what's your thing? Surely everyone has a thing, or maybe they don't, do they?
I don't know. Don't think it's as common as you think, because I think there's a lot of people who like work, and maybe they have families and they're providing, and it's just like a cycle, and work's their thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it can be hard to find those things for people, because I think there's also, you have to kind of be vulnerable to find what you want and enjoy as well. I don't know. There's like a weird, like,
I think sorry, no, go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I think to share what you're into, I think, is often the toughest thing.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
I think 90% of hobbies are probably improved by having someone else interacting with it that is obviously interested in the thing. Someone that you can share your collection with, or you can trade, or you can discuss, or you can play, or whatever. So, and I think especially the older you get in life and the more responsibilities that you have, and as a whole you're meeting less people, I think it can get tougher and tougher to break out of that shell and share those interests.
I think that's where social media and stuff like that plays a big role in, if you have a hobby and if you really want to kind of explore that hobby a bit more. Say, for instance, if it's video games and none of your friends are into video games, but you can start a Twitch account or an Instagram account or whatever and have it dedicated to video games, and that's how you meet people. It's how I met Keith, and how this podcast came about was...
Yeah, that's how I met Alex, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go.
Praise be.
Praise be under his eye.
It's great that there is that thing. But what about before? Like, think about it years ago, before the internet. How would people have shared their niche?
I fucking hope that the fucking lad in the fucking pub down the road.
I was listening to a guy who plays a lot of Smash Bros. Melee, and still does play a lot of Melee, and he was talking about meeting people before growing up, and he was like, from the ages of 17 to 22, he always just had a GameCube controller on him. Because every now and again he'd meet someone and they'd be like, "Oh, do you play Smash Bros?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's scrim, baby."
No way.
It's like the Zoolander piece where he's like, I'm not prepared to play any music. Like whips a flute out of his fucking Anchorman. Sorry, not Zoolander.
But yeah, so he just constantly carried a GameCube controller around with him. And that's how he met other people in the Melee community and got invited to tournaments and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the old school way of doing it.
But I suppose, not as an adult, but obviously as a kid, I'm just about old enough to be proper pre-internet and remember being fucking sentient. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, that was the problem though. Like in school, the stuff I liked, 3 or 4 of my other people in the class would like it too. So we were just in our own world being like, well, this is our group now. Do you know what I mean? So, and in school, you're lucky because you're surrounded by, well, not lucky. I mean, most people fucking hate it to an extent, but you're surrounded by maybe 20, 30 other kids that, there's a chance you'll find something in common with someone. But as an adult, as you said, Alex, you're going down to a point where it's you meet less people, the whole thing kind of happens, so it can be difficult. And I think the really extra lucky thing we have as well is the fact that you have something you're passionate about, and then the 3 of us are not just enjoying what we are, we're also trying to create on top of it.
Yeah.
You like something so much that you're like, I have to fucking make something. Yeah. You know what I mean? They you have to make this podcast or you have to stream or whatever. So
I think it's nice just to help build on the community. And there's arguably a little bit of a passing of the torch where even if you're not championing the torch, it's nice to contribute to the flame a little bit. To help it 100%. Grow brighter, attract more people, bring it in and give back to a community of people that have done absolute wonders for yourself, whether that's through entertainment, enjoyment, comfort, or any other emotion, really.
And when did you decide to start streaming, and was there a catalyst or a point where you were like, did you watch someone else stream and be like, I want to do that? Or
it was the tail end of COVID, and I had a job tutoring some kids, and I ended up having a small disagreement with management.
Right.
Is small in inverted commas?
Not small. It just the place I was working for, they were just overcharging the kids so much, and the materials we were using was so old. They had some really, really dodgy language in the material, bordering on slurs. And I was like, we're charging the kids this much. Can we not get new textbooks? And they were like, nope. And I was like, can we at least, remove the pages from these textbooks? And they were like, nope. And I was like, cool, well, I'm handing my notice in. Jesus. And so I had a month's notice, so I still had to work there for a month. But 3 days after that point, they were like, we're sticking you on gardening leave. Because...
gardening leave?
Yeah, that's when you're paid to not work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, so it's if you're moving to a rival company or something, but you've got a month's notice period, so they don't want you collecting all their secrets and running away with them, basically. Okay. So it was just to shut me up so I wouldn't spout to the kids or their parents being like, this place is bad. And
yeah, sure.
So I had a month off of getting paid, and one of my friends was like, oh, Alex, you do your quiz hosting, you do your acting, you love video games, you should get on Twitch. I was like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I should get on Twitch. Yeah. And that's what started it. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride ever since.
And did you start playing video games? So I know you've talked, and Keith has mentioned about hosting quizzes and stuff as well. But did you get into it to do that? Did you get into it to do video games? I
got into it to do video games. So I started doing Pokemon Nuzlocke. For the listeners that don't know what Nuzlocke are, they're basically like Pokemon on hard mode. Every time your Pokemon faints, it dies. You're only allowed to catch the first Pokemon every route, and you have to nickname your Pokemon for extra personal attachment.
Yeah. So when they're dead, it's like, no, Timothy.
Yes.
No.
You can't bring them back. Yeah.
No, they're fucked. You have to release them into the wild or put them in a box.
Into the wild. But yeah, I watched a lot of YouTube content of Nuzlocke, and I really enjoyed that. And I was like, no, I want to do this. I played a lot of Pokemon since, and I think once you start getting older, you realize that Pokemon is kind of a kid's game. And if you do have the training wheels on, it's rock, paper, scissors where you know what the other person's throwing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is baby's first RPG, right?
Yes,
like in terms of
absolutely.
in terms of its difficulty, in terms of like what is not that it's not can't be enjoyed by anyone.
Oh
but
no,
that
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
In terms of its difficulty level, it's like fire is good against water. Do we have a fire or water? You know what I mean, or whatever, the other way around.
But once you've played through every game 50 times, you occasionally look for a little bit more of a challenge.
Go on, Asha, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say I've never thought about Pokemon as like almost like an introductory RPG game because
that's the thing.
Straightforwardness and maybe not simplicity, but you could kind of just find your way through it. You know what I mean? It's not the kind of game where, like The Legend of Zelda on the NES, where you have to burn a certain fucking bush and dig a hole or something, and you could be stuck.
Where you need a guide to fucking play it.
With Pokemon, you can typically find your way through there with enough time spent on it and having your Pokemon up to a certain level. You'd make your way through.
Yeah.
How have you found then in terms of like how long have you been Twitch streaming for now?
I think it's 30 months now.
Oh,
cool.
Baby.
Yep,
Nice.
so 2 and a bit years.
Deadly.
Getting on a bit now with it.
And how has that journey been like from start to now? Like, is it something that, in terms of kind of what you want it to be, in terms of kind of how passionate you are about it? Is it kind of for you just a community aspect of it? Like, what are you kind of prioritizing in the moment of what you're looking to gain out of this creative endeavor?
It's tough because I feel like I want a bit of everything. I'm a little bit greedy. Like, I am a performer and entertainer. I do some acting work, so I am chasing the fame a little bit. I'm so grateful and love the community that I've brought together, and I have such a great time with them. I enjoy all of their company ever so much. I like sharing games. I like having people to tell my crappy little jokes to. I like experimenting with stuff in terms of a host. I like it all. It's just I try to consider it just like another feather in my cap. And have really, really enjoyed the ride. I think maybe like most streamers, we all wish we could be a little bit bigger and a little bit more successful.
Sure.
But I'm very, very happy with the progress I've made and where I am at the minute and what it is that I'm doing. Having a wicked fun time doing it.
And how often, sorry Keith, I just wanted to ask, how often do you stream? What do you have a set schedule, or is it
I tend to do Monday to Friday 10 till 3.
10 till 3.
10 till 3. But although recently, because I've picked up a couple other jobs, my streams have been a little bit shorter and a little bit less frequent, which has been very, very annoying. But boys got bills to pay. So,
Hashtag girls gotta eat,
Hashtag girls gotta eat. But yeah, Monday to Friday. I like the audience. It's a nice combination of like drunk Australians, insomniac Americans, and Europeans who are trying to skive off work, which I feel is like my 3 great core people that match with my energy incredibly well.
It kind of like if you put all those 3 things together, I think you get a Swallow. Do you know what I mean?
I think
you would get that Pokemon, kind of mangled together.
And how did you two guys hook up, and how did you two meet?
So me and Keith have talked about this before because I'm pretty sure that I raided into Keith first.
You didn't.
Because I remember one of my community members was like, raid into Keith. And I was like, okay, raid in. And instantly fell in love with this guy. The music, the swearing, the dancing. Because one of my gripes with a lot of streamers is a lot of them, I'm all about the cozy vibes and stuff, but a lot of them just aren't as interactive as I'd like. I feel with streaming, you either got to be really good at the game or you have to be entertaining. Yeah. And if you're not doing either one of those, I'm like, you're missing something here. Yeah. But Keith, you come into his stream and he's doing 150 miles an hour in a 60. He's going so goddamn fast. And I was like, yes, I love this guy so much. And he was like, send me an emote. He was like, DM me your favorite emo. And I was like, that's such a good way to remind yourself to go back to the other person. Because I get raided and I forget all the fucking time.
Okay, then you must be right then. Because you must have raided him first.
And then Keith came into my stream watching me play Devil May Cry 4, 3.
No, 1.
Cool.
Devil May Cry 1 in super slow-mo because my laptop wasn't running it super well.
It was actually glorious. So what I was watching was he was playing Devil May Cry, but anytime he went into combat, the game... No, wait. The game was like running, but Dante was like literally moving at 10% his normal speed.
It was so strange.
And I was like, this is fucking fascinating, right? Because his laptop like wasn't playing it properly. And it was hilarious just trying to watch someone play the game in fucking slow motion for a couple of hours.
And I remember feeling terrible because I saw Steamy_streamers says hi. And I was like, Keith's here. Right. We're standing up. We're getting ready. We're giving it all the fucking beans now. I like this guy. He's going to like my energy as well. And the game was going so unbelievably slow. I'm like, no, he's going to think I'm boring. He's going to leave me.
You going so fast in the game, like not even fucking moving.
Yeah.
Honest to God, I wish you did a whole playthrough of slow-mo Devil May Cry. Oh, like, that would be, for me, like... That would be the content I wanted. I don't think it actually could have been better because maybe the game going so slow and you trying to go so fast was just the perfect. It was probably a terrible time in your head, but it was a beautiful.
Oh, it was terrible. I think I was still in my speed running arc there, so I was like, must beat game quick.
Yeah.
Dante's just moving at a snail's pace, and I was close to throwing my controller through a window. Ugh. Old games are janky, man.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Well, that was a different jank. I think that was my computer being janky there, rather than the game itself.
Okay, fair enough. Just so I have like to give Nisha like a little background. So you're a quiz show host.
Yes.
You do a little bit of acting as well.
Yes.
Which you have a very funny story about. As far as I recall, of a show you were about to do, and it all went fucking tits up.
My god! This pilot I was a part of. Holy moly!
There was a trailer on YouTube.
There was a trailer on YouTube that's now been taken down. Where,
story.
So basically, I got asked. It was dodgy from the start. I asked to audition for this pilot. It's called Students. It's about students at university. I was like, cool, no worries. It was Zoom auditions, and I had like an initial audition, and I got through to the final round, and there was like 2 people for each part there. So it was me and a counterpart, and then for a different part, 2 other people, so on. And there were 4 producers there. For some reason, they all had their webcams off, and they went through the weirdest process of, they made all of us do our audition pieces. Yep, no worries, cool. And they were like, all right, now for the next round, I would like you to speak for 30 seconds as to why you deserve the part, and then 30 seconds as to why the other person doesn't deserve the part. Jesus. And we're like, I've not met this person before. Yeah. I don't know this. Everyone was like relatively nice. Like my guy, thankfully, he went first and he was like, well, Alex has a mustache and I don't think that the character should be bearded. And then I was like, well, I think the character should be bearded and I can shave my mustache off anyway.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, the producers, they proper X-factored us. They went, all right, so from me, producer Pete, it's a yes. Producer Tony, for Alex, it's a yes. Producer Keith, it's a yes. But before we go to producer James, producer Keith, what do you think about Gerald over there? And it was just the most horrible experience.
Yeah.
You're like lambs to the slaughter in terms of just like pinning each other against each other,
just
making everyone feel like shit.
And because I'm a hungry actor with no credits at this point, I'm like, I'm taking the part anyway.
Of course.
So we end up filming the shoot. There was a bunch of other questionable stuff going on. The story was super weird. It was about British university student who was being a stripper to help pay her way through university, which I'm sure exists in the UK. I don't think it's that rare. People mostly just tank their student loans and learn to live with it rather than getting a job to pay through.
It's something you would plausibly expect to see on Netflix somewhere anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it. And then we ended up looking up the producer. So his name was Peter Wilson. That's what he told us. But then we found out that wasn't his real name. His real name was Vladimir Wilson. And a few years before, he had been caught trying to scam a jeweler by saying he was Britain's youngest lottery winner and was trying to get them to give them jewelry for him to pay back. So we found those stories, brought it up, and he was like, oh no, it's just the sun in the mirror. It was all part of this reality show I was in. And we were like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
We filmed it. He was late paying us. We were like, where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? Kept pushing it back. Eventually, some of us got the money, some of us didn't, but they kept on him. And then a few months after that, I got added into a group chat that was like, as you may have heard, Vladimir Wilson has now been arrested. And turns out the pilot was a money laundering scheme for diamond heists that his mates were doing.
Fucking.
He was part of a whole ring that was scamming old people out of their jewelry and diamonds.
Jesus.
And it's like head honcho.
Continue exclusive.
Yep. Head honcho got like 14 years. Peter got 3 years, I think, for it.
Jesus.
But yeah, that was the whole thing to see. Okay, that entire pilot was just
a front.
a money laundering.
It's hilarious because I saw the trailer with Alex in it, like, and they're in like a cafeteria. Like it looks like a proper fucking TV show.
They build us out. It was the whole thing was so strange because I remember.
Isn't that crazy?
I remember him being like, all right, guys, so for the main episodes, we're being sponsored by Apple. But for the first episode, Alcatel have given us some phones. And you know, the Alcatel, like, fucking 10, 15 pound drug dealer phones.
I don't think I'm overly familiar with them.
Yeah, they're like the pay-as-you-go phone. So he
like
chucked us a couple of those, and we were like, okay. And he was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're also sponsored by Coca-Cola, and just pulled out a case of 24 Cokes. And like, yes, this is clearly an endorsement for Coca-Cola because you have not just bought a crate of 24 cans.
Yeah.
Jesus,
and just told us that, no, we're sponsored by you guys.
I mean, you can see how you went to Twitch, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is wild.
Can you imagine that as like thinking your first big break and it turns out to be that?
Oh, the most annoying thing is that I turned down a small part in a bigger movie for it. It's a movie called, I think it was called 369. It didn't do very well. Was it 369 or 367?
It's so interesting, like that kind of world, you know what I mean? Just in parallel to the whole gaming side of stuff.
That is fucking insane.
It's a fucking wild story, isn't it?
And what was the production like on it? Like, was there...
It was actually pretty professional. Like, I got a trailer. So I was like, oh my God, I got my own trailer. It had my name on the outside. I got called to hair and makeup. You know, everyone else in the crew was incredibly professional and was definitely there to do their jobs.
Yeah, they were all just hired like you were, assuming that this was a legit
had
thing.
Absolutely no reason, relatively, to think that this is a money laundering scheme for a diamond gang. We were like, okay, the producer's a bit odd and funny, but people in the creative industry often are, you know, they can be a bit quirky, a little bit odd.
Hear
some
me
of us
out,
get
Alex.
past.
True.
You need to make a creative based on the story of someone being an actor going in to do a show that ends up finding out it's a whole money heist laundry thing.
Like, that is a movie in itself.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You need to make.
I would like to say I've trademarked and copyrighted all these ideas, and if anyone listening wants to
continue. Rights to overrule that, as anything that's recorded in the show is owned by us and will be taken by us for the rest of time. Can we get some scratches there on the mic?
Fucking hell, that's like, that has Netflix documentary written all over.
Owned by Preston A.
it,
Bunch
man.
Continue, owned by Keith and Nisha, and all profits and organisation will go to the money laundering company of Keith and Nisha, where we will also take the diamonds. Thank you.
That is fucking
Call me fucking
crazy.
what was it? Call me Vladimir Keithy or something.
Yeah.
But it must have been difficult to get to that stage where you're given a trailer and you're like,
I
fucking
know,
hell, here
that's
we
what
go,
I think.
and then
It's,
have it come back like that.
yeah, it's super weird. I think it's the same. Well, there's a similar part of acting with streaming where you still have to be thinking about the next thing, even when you're doing good at the thing that you're doing at that time. So at that point, I was like, all right, this is like a little rung up I've had. I'm going to get like a proper IMDb credit. I'm in a trailer. This feels like a big production. I'm going to move up. Similarly, where I think initially when I started at Twitch and like I'd have a bigger streamer come raid me and I'd be like, oh God, the view account's great. You know, it's at 50 today. It's going to stay at 50 forever and it's going to only go up from here. And it doesn't necessarily just go up from there.
That's a very interesting, almost like kind of like drug analogy of addiction, where it's like, you know, your highs are your highs. So, you know, say if we do something creative niche on a podcast, gets 1,000 listens and the next one's 100. There's this like, oh, you get that serotonin. You think, yes, we're going in the right direction. And then if it dips off again, there's like you're kind of chasing that, like, where say if you have 50 viewers a good few times, then that will plateau into feeling like the next exciting thing could be 70 or, you know, whatever. There's a lot of different I guess serotonin features of expectations, but also the buzz you get when you do something, like, you know, like when we release the podcast and it gets a good reception or whatever, you know, you get a buzz off that, you know, there's like there's a positive receptor that someone thinks what you did was good work or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So that's very interesting conversation in of itself.
I also think it kind of shows, so that can be really difficult to deal with. So say for instance, I'll use the podcast as an analogy. Say, for instance, we get 1,000 listens on an episode, yeah? The next episode gets 100, the next episode gets 50, the next episode gets 20. Like, it can be very difficult for a lot of people, I'd imagine, to continue on at that. And it's part of you have to put in the hours. It's like being an actor or being in a band or anything creative. You have to put in the work and go through the difficult times if you want to keep going until you get to a certain point where you're happy, you know what I mean? And a lot of people can drop off, you know. I know from, like, say for instance, if it's somebody, a streamer, and they might say put a load of fucking money into a stream before they've even set it up and have this goal in mind, and I've spent $5,000 of the best camera, of the best mic, of the best PC, and then, like you were saying, Alex, if someone isn't really good at the game, or if they're not really entertaining, and they're just like, you've got all this really high-tech shit, but
and they've set up their own expectation too by getting all this fancy equipment that they feel like it's going to be. They have an image in their head of what it should be, and then it doesn't meet their expectations, and it's such an easy fall off.
It can be, it is. It's an easy fall off. I think anyway. It can be very difficult to power through. So I have the utmost respect.
Like, you should listen to the first episode of our podcast, man. Nisha is really speaking out of his asshole in that
God,
one.
It is.
He's got like a Coca-Cola. He got a free Coca-Cola, like, in your mic.
I'm here. That's what it is. This is it.
Is that the one?
That's the same one that I'm using the headset.
No, you got to start from somewhere, and I think definitely on the financial side, it's definitely better to go like low tech with any kind of
100%.
content
How you
creation.
feel.
But I feel super grateful. I feel like my hardest performance days are definitely behind me, because at uni, we spent 4 months rehearsing a play. We hired out this lovely theatre in town that sat 300 people, and 3 people showed up on the first night.
Right. Fuck.
And having to perform something that you've worked on for 4 months. There's 15 people in the cast. And there's and 3 people sat in this enormous room. And you still make it the whole way through the show. And I think after that, I'm like, I can stream to 2 people and I'll be fine. Or I can go do a performance and no one turns up. I'm okay with this, because it doesn't mean your performance is any less, or it's not any good. It's not a shame there's not as many eyes are in it that are on it that maybe you think it deserves.
Sure, because I mean, there is always going to be elements of, like, I do think luck is where preparation and opportunity meets, but there is also element of chance and everything else that happens with it, you know. So
I remember playing. I was in a band for years, and I remember playing a few gigs. We do say, for instance, you do a pub gig where you might play 30 songs and on a Saturday night, and you're guaranteed the pub was going to be hopping and stuff like that. But when we were doing our own songs and original material that the lads had written prior to me joining the band, but it was all their own original material, and you'd do a gig and you'd hype it up, and like 5 people would show up, and you're just like, fuck. But I always felt like, I don't know, obviously it's a bit of a fucking gut punch, but you're just like, look we're here now, we're up on the stage, this can be a fucking like a rehearsal, like a fucking, you're just honing your craft, take it in, and then you go to you get the next gig or the next live show that you're doing, and there's a fucking 100 people, and you're like, yes. And it's difficult to ride that wave. It can be difficult to keep going if things are up and down.
And particularly if you go from the 1,000 back down to the 3 again, right? Like that's where the, like, you know, your expectations. I think my thing is, like, always do it like there's a million people there. You know what I mean? Like, whether there's no one there, 10 people, 20 people, 100%. It's like, you know, you're always trying, because you never know, right? Who's going to pop in? Like, you never know, even as a content creator or a streamer, right? You never know, right? Because a lot of people have this, I think, misconceptions, like, I'll wait till someone comes in and chats to me before I chat. But like, you got to realize that if someone's passing through the stream and you're, you know, if you're not engaging or you're not performing, like, there's, you know, so many people there, they're just going to move on. But if you are, you might keep them, and you never know who's going to pop through that day. He might be looking for someone to raid or anything, you know what I mean? And it could be like, oh, this person seems energetic, and, you know, so you always want to be putting your best creative foot forward, I think.
Yeah, 100%. That's a really good way of putting it, actually, with regards to streaming, because I know, or now you can answer this. I'm not a streamer, I don't know, but if you start a stream, say, and there's there's nobody there, right? So you're just starting out. There's nobody there.
Happened to all of us, or like significantly less than normal, you could say as well.
But it's only normal for it to happen because when you're starting out, you start out from the ground.
When you're starting out, yeah,
100%.
Oh no, you should expect zero.
Yeah. But would you just start talking? Would you just get into it? Yeah. And
you have to, because otherwise, like you're fucking. You need to. It's like you need to get on the treadmill, and then when you're on the treadmill of talking shit.
Yeah.
You're just talking to yourself. Like, you have to get good at talking to yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. It's super important. Answering your own questions, I think, is the big thing. Like, ask a question to chat or whatever, but answer it yourself. Like, keep the flow going. Because for me, like, I always try to think of... Because when it comes to watching Twitch, I consider myself a very casual viewer. I pop in for, 15, 20 minutes at a time, maybe an hour for the people I like, Keith.
Yeah.
But I'm always trying to see...
You're like one of, like, in terms of the time zone I get to watch, or you stream before me normally, like, so I get to actually hang out for like an hour or two. So I definitely have the most hours on your channel, 100%.
Thank you. I'm honoured and flattered by it. But I always try to... Because the way I approach Twitch is I'll pop into a stream. If you don't get my attention the first 20 seconds, I'm gone.
Yeah.
You know? And I always try to think, obviously there's going to be like little bits of dead air when you're streaming, but always try to be as engaged as possible so that when that 20-second window does come of someone coming to click on you, that you try to grab them and bring them into your community and smother them with entertainment and fun.
I'd be the same. I'm a very casual viewer of Twitch, Kick, any kind of streaming services that there is, because it's just a matter of time for me. So I work during the day, I get home, I'm looking after my kid, and then once my kid goes to bed, then I have a bit of time in the afternoon. I might be spending that time with my partner, and then maybe late at night, if I get the time, like I'll pop in and out of Keith's stream, say if I'm on my lunch or something, I'll watch. But it's, if I find somebody new, I'd be in the same as you, where I have to be grabbed straight away. And that's just a personal thing. Like, it's everyone streams whatever you stream, whatever way you want. It's like this podcast. It's either for you or it's not, and that's absolutely fine.
That's okay. Except this episode is for everyone.
For everyone, yeah. So, I mean, we're kind of going through like Pokemon sexiest horny, fucking Pokemon sexiest Pokemon, Pokemon horny, and now we're in, this is how it goes. We're in the deep roots conversations of creation and life.
It's mad how it went from a very extreme, like, what could I use, like, not vulgar, like dirty or like sassy, I don't know, like
I think
sexual.
Me and Keith just need like 5 minutes every time we first meet just to get everything out.
Just go to like, come.
How serious it feels. Like it's a really nice conversation, and we're talking about creativity and stuff like that. And it's wild where if someone listens to the start of this podcast, they'd be like,
yeah,
what
I
the
know, right?
fuck? But then when you get into
this is
it,
why we have the beautiful intros to hook you on with something else that we can bring you back in later. You know what I mean? So there's something coming for you.
Coming?
I do. Coming. I'm in a engine square. You're stupid. Sorry.
God damn it. I expected that from Keith, not from you.
I'm sorry.
That's disgusting, Nisha. You filthy animal.
Nisha doesn't know what cum is.
Yeah, he's
I'm
never seen
ashamed
it
of myself.
There's a couple of different aspects as well of other parts of Alex's life I'm curious about and would love to, because I enjoy these stories, and I think Nisha, for you to get to know more is great as well.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, so you worked on cruise ships for like the longest time as well.
Cool.
I worked on cruise ships for a year. That was a really, really wicked time in my life. Like, just before I went onto the cruise ship, things were looking pretty down. Like, I was just out of a relationship, long-term relationship. I wasn't really happy with my dating life. Briefly got kicked out of home. Grandma died. Was in a rut at work. I was like, I need to get out. And this cruise ship job came up, and I was like, it's rent-free. We pay for all your food. The money you're getting is tax-free, and you get to see the world. And I was like, fucking yes. Sign me up.
Brilliant.
What
did you do on the cruise ships?
So I was an actor host on the cruise ship, which meant I do like the quizzes and the bingo and the table tennis tournaments during the day, and then the evenings I'd be hosting the game shows. We do like a murder mystery night, bit of performance. It'd be like dancing with Doris and Gladys on the dance floor. You know, get them up, have a boogie, sit down. Basically, like every night, it'd just be like, let's see how many free drinks I can get out of the guests, and just have a great time.
That is so cool.
Do you have like, any key memories of like, on my year on the cruise ship, this is one or two of the stories that I regale.
Some people seem to forget to pack their brain cells when they come on holiday.
Sure.
Like I remember this was like 2 weeks in, this guy, he was staring at the pool on the deck. He was like, Alex, I've got a question for you. I'm like, oh yeah, how can I help you? Now, the pool on deck, we use seawater in the pool. So we drain it every evening, we fill it back up. It's better for the environment,
Cool.
You don't have to keep chlorinated water in there. Staring at the pool, he's like, Alex, do you put seawater in the pool? And I was like, yeah, we do actually, because, it's better for the environment, it's cleaner, all the rest of it. He goes, yeah, I thought it was seawater because of the waves. Look at how many GMTs have you had today, sir?
Oh, fucking hell.
And then there was one woman who was absolutely terrible, complaining about everything. Food's too hot, air conditioning's too cold. And she'd pretty much done the rounds on everyone, and I hadn't had too many interactions with her. But then one night I had an interaction, and I was like, right, I'm winding her up, I don't care.
Yeah.
And she was super nosy about everything. She wanted to know where everything was, what you did. She was like, Alex, where did the crew go when the lights go off? I go, well, funnily enough, the helicopter actually picks us up from the ship and takes us to land. And then we catch up with the ship on the morning at 5 a.m. We sneak on while you guys are all asleep. Yeah. So, oh, yeah, I thought there was something going on downstairs. I was like, all right. Next day, she's at the reception at 8 a.m. complaining about the helicopter waking her up in the night.
Fuck off. You are joking me.
Reception came up to me later that evening in the crew bar, and they were like, Alex, are you telling lies to our guest? And I was like, what? They're like, you told someone the helicopter. Yeah, that was me. My bad. Sorry.
No. Fucking hell.
Brain cells is right, man.
Yeah.
Looking for something to complain.
When I was in college and I was working towards, we were sold the dream of working on a cruise ship. So I did 3 years of holistic massage therapy in college. And
nice.
What we were always sold was when you become a qualified massage therapist, the best job you can do is go straight into working on a cruise ship. And I remember I did it and I passed my exams and everything, but they were like, if you have any tattoos visible, you're out, you're done. And I was like, Now I didn't have as many tattoos as I have now, but I did have some tattoos, and I was like, but just because I had a tattoo on my arm, they were like, don't even bother. And I was like, but I've been doing this for 3 years, and you've been telling me for 3 years that this is what can be done, when there's a big fucking piece of ink on my fucking arm, and then when I finish, it's like, mightn't be for you. I was like, you fucking...
Could you just wear a fucking wetsuit or something and be like, this is just my wear,
Yeah. And then that was that.
Yeah, thankfully cruise ships as a whole have got a bit more relaxed with the tattoo stuff, because it's very difficult to find people who want to live completely away from their families for 6 months to a year or longer. And I feel the Venn diagram of people who have tattoos and the people that are willing to do that are almost
and also,
a circle.
I kind of feel as well as the older generations are dying off.
That's the main problem. It's the old middle class traditional people who are like, oh no, if you have a tattoo, you must be a thug, and you're gonna try to hurt me for some reason.
Same way with Japan are big against them too, because it's so related with the Yakuza and stuff like that.
Oh really?
You can't have any visible tattoos going into a gym or the baths or anything.
Yeah, the public baths there.
You have to, so they're very particular on that. Even though it's kind of, again, it's more of the older generation type thing, but it's still very, I guess cultured in that way too.
I thought that. I think that stigma is kind of gone now for most countries and people.
Oh, for most countries for sure. But on the complete flip side, so I went to Brazil earlier this year.
Yeah.
And so my mum's Brazilian.
Cool.
So I went to Brazil and I had to do something involving getting her passport renewed or something in one of the licensing buildings. And it was so weird going into a government building and seeing workers with neck, hand and face tattoos in there.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're much more uncommon tattoos than other tattoos. But I've never been into Barclays and seen someone with a face tattoo.
Yeah.
It was just completely normal for people to have tattoos all over their body. No one says anything. No one blinks an eye at it. And
There was this very nice sense actually when I was like, because you know my other job was being a therapist and you know kind of going into the streaming more side of things, was this very nice thing. It's like, yeah, I could just fucking. There was this moment where it's like, yeah, I could just get a tattoo on my cheek if I, you know what I mean? Like it was kind of like all of a sudden
I could do this.
I could, you know, not a good idea obviously, but like I didn't feel constricted by like all these ideals in terms of what I thought was expected to you when you're in that position and type of role. Do you know what I mean? It was like kind of freeing to leave them off in the sense that it's like, you know, there was just a kind of a weird sense of that when you were doing something you wanted to do. Because as a therapist, it's like, geez, you know, you better not be seen out having a pint. Do you know what I mean? There's kind of that feeling of it in a way. So that is kind of interesting.
It's funny, like, I don't think, for most companies now, I don't think would, you know, I don't think they'd look at a tattoo and be like,
well,
no.
I don't think they'd explicitly be able to say it, but I'm sure there's a lot that behind the counter are like,
I know the big one still is Center Parks. I know you can't work for Center Parks if you've got visible tattoos or non-natural coloured hair.
Fuck off. Really? Yeah.
That's a big
crazy.
one. There's someone who's like looked at a lot of the hosting jobs in holiday parks and stuff.
Yeah.
Center Parks is still like one that's really, really holding on to the sense of traditionalism.
Do you know, that reminds me of a story, right? My older brother Aidan was he was a bit of he was like a punk rocker, right, when he was in school, and he dyed half of his hair one colour, right? So he had a step haircut, you know, like a bowl haircut.
Yes.
And he dyed it like red or something, right? And so we got suspended, and you're like, right, you have to get rid of that. So he literally shaved half his head, right? No joke, half his head. Went back into school, and you're like, no, that's unacceptable. You can't have half your head shaved.
Smart answer,
Suspended
man,
him again, right? So what he did was he went home and he shaved it all apart from like a circle. So if you imagine like a Pringles tin circle, right, on his head, and spiked it up and dyed it purple. And he went back into school, and they suspended him again, right? And so they were like, it's unacceptable. And then the last thing was he shaved his head, right? So he'd like a zero blade all over or something, right? He went into school, and you're like, your hair's too short, you're suspended, get out. And my mother went in and ran a fucking muck in the school, and she was like, could you imagine? But I love that he did all those things. They were like, you have to get rid of that, and he was like, there's no water.
Yeah, I did exactly what you told me.
Yeah.
I love that malicious compliance. It's beautiful, because you know he knew that. He was like, this is going to get me into more trouble. I'm doing this to make
malicious
a point.
Compliance. I've never heard of it put that way. I like that.
Oh, there's a whole subreddit for malicious compliance, and it is fabulous.
I bet you're good at it. I just realized we've turned into Press Enable to Continue is now just a general life podcast of interviews.
I'm
Do you know
okay
what I mean?
with that. As a viewer, I love just hearing you guys talk. You got beautiful voices and great stories, and I think the diving board that you start on is always well meant, but you maybe don't land in the same pool that you were intended to, but you still make a great big splash, and I love it.
I fucking love that, Alex. I love the way you put that. That's really fucking nice, man.
You're welcome. You take that.
That's really nice. Thank you.
Okay, I do want to swing around though a little bit, right? Because I do have a couple of more bits and bobs. Anisha, do you have any topics or questions you have in your mind before I blast through a couple of things here? I don't want to overshadow in case you have a couple of things you want.
I do, and I'm looking at your background. So I do want to ask you about the quiz hosting, but I'm looking at your background and I see the different suits and the hats and the colourful clothes, and I'm just curious as to.
He's currently.
My quiz boss actually bought me a new suit the other day.
Oh, cool. So Alex is currently going to get this.
Oh my! It's like a disco
I got my
ball.
headphones out, you can't see, but it is incredibly shiny and reflective, both on the jacket and the trousers.
Nice.
Imagine the Crystal Maze as a suit.
That is so cool.
But yeah, that clothing rail is essentially just my uniform rack. Like, I was hosting a quiz earlier today, which is why I'm wearing this funky shirt as well.
Cool.
You just gotta let the people know when you arrive in the venue, you're the fun guy. And
yeah, exactly.
I'm here to do a job.
You're the one who's
so cool.
DTF, you know what I mean? You know, on the bar, you know what I mean? When they're giving you those free quiz host bars and you're just paid in beers and you're like,
oh,
hey,
it's great.
The older ladies crew and you're like, I don't know who's coming home late tonight.
Man, the amount of times I put my foot in my mouth trying to pull out a quiz is just absolutely fucking terrible. It's awful. Like, brilliant. Try to pull so they're like, I'm the manager here and I'm a husband back home, so we're not hiring you again.
Great. How are you supposed to fucking know?
You put your arm around my waist. I thought it was on. No, it was not. You were just being friendly. My bad.
Well, I'll be like, I'm going to tell your fucking husband that you fucking grabbed me and you held me and you inappropriately touched me, you bitch.
That's terrible. It is the reason why, as a single Pringle, my go-to chat-up line with people, and I think this is the best chat-up line of them all. I stand by this.
Yeah.
Is like, it's simply so if we're talking, we're having a nice time. It's like, real quickly, I'm really sorry if this is a bit forward, but can I flirt with you? And then if they say yes, it's game on. Let's go. And if they say no,
and it's also the most consensual way of doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it.
You're not fucking around. You're not wasting any time. You're fucking. Getting
you know what?
It,
like when you say that first, I'm like, oh, that's kind of fucking cringe. But then I think about it, and I'm kind of with it, and I kind of think, you know what I mean? It's very light. It's very kind of like it's just a little bit cheeky, but you're also, and they can have the option of being like, fuck off.
It's not the first. I don't run up to someone. I'm just like, can I flirt with you? It's like I'll be chatting to them for a few minutes. You know, we share.
I want to flirt with you.
Who wants to flirt with me? Yeah, that's the method.
Anyway, so quiz show hosting.
Quiz show hosting. Yeah, that's something I loved. I left uni and I needed a job, and I saw it on Indeed, and I was like, yes, I would love to be a pub quiz host.
Brilliant.
So started in pubs. Then went on cruise ships for a bit, and then now I'm like pretty much strictly corporate. So like I'm getting flown out to Canada for the second time to host quizzes this year, which is super. Like I never thought I'd have a company paying to fly me to a different country.
That's so cool.
Which is just incredible.
I never thought I'd ever have a company paying me. So I mean, that's
that as well.
That is amazing, man. Hell,
so yeah,
really cool.
super happy with that.
Well, are you? Do you have another one for me, Nisha, or will I?
No, you got he covered the quizzing and the clothes because I can just see the hat. The hat's looking at me, man.
Just put on the fucking hat.
Look, it's like a red. It's a pirate hat.
Tricorn over here. This is when Captain Barbosa's in session.
Yeah, that is slick. So it's like for the listeners at home, it's red. Is it like leopard printy type thing?
Yeah, it's kind of got that leopardishness to it.
It's a
gold trim.
Yeah,
and a feather. That is slick.
Beautiful.
Very, very cool.
Where did the name Barbosaonline come from?
Barbosa is my middle name. It's my mum's maiden name.
So we can find you.
All throughout my life, people have seemed to have really latched onto the Barbosa thing, which, I mean, I think is a great name.
feel like I didn't know this, and I'm kind of blown away, because obviously, you know, we think of Pirates of the Caribbean, you know what I mean? Like
when I was at uni and you'd meet people on nights out, and at that point, you know, it's always, add me on Facebook. And everyone would be like, oh, are you like a big Pirates of the Caribbean fan? I'd be like, yes, but that's not the reason why Barbosa's there.
I also wanted to ask you a couple of final video game questions in regards to I want to know first of all, do you, because I mean, I was just looking through some of our episodes there and I like to pull for them for questions. Do you have a good video game sleepover story?
Yes, I did submit a video game sleepover story into the episode.
What? Oh, you submit one.
I have submitted one. It was read out where basically this is just when Fire Red and Leaf Green had come out. You tell it
so much better, you know what I mean?
I'll tell it again. So Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green have just come out and the wireless adapters that came with them had also come out.
Do you remember
so
them,
you could
Misha?
now meet your friends in the Union Room. What a great time that was.
They came with Fire Red and Leaf Green. There's these, so Game Boys had the link cables.
Yeah.
And this was the first wireless official Nintendo version of them. You plopped onto the Game Boy Advance and then wirelessly be able to trade and shit. Anyway, sorry.
Cool.
Yep. Which was super great. And I think it was my birthday, and I had 7 of the boys round to come and sleep over, and we're all there in the Union Room the whole time. It was mostly just like limit testing Nintendo swear filters, like trying to work out what words you could get through. And so we were up playing till silly o'clock in the morning, and then my mum came into the room, and there's like 3 of us on the bed, 4 of us on the floor. She's like, right, boys, all of you Game Boys now. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm taking them.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, Mum. We all confiscated our Game Boys. But one friend had hidden down like the back end of the bed where my mum hadn't seen and held onto his Game Boy. So we still had one Game Boy to play for the night, which was still wonderful. But I was like, this is bullshit. I'm not standing for this. I'm going to go steal
and you
back the Game Boys.
And you got to stand up, and when you're in front of your friends, you got to be like, I am the man.
I've got this. Don't worry. I know where Mum hides all of my things. I'm going to go get them. So dead of the night, sneak around. I'm gone for like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Couldn't find him anywhere. I was like, boys, I have been thwarted. I have been defeated. And the next morning, we're down at breakfast, just eating bowls of cereal. And Mum was like, "Oh, boys, did you sleep all right? Yeah, Mum slept all right. Can we have our Game Boys back, please?" She goes, "Oh, they're right in front of you." And in the fruit bowl, my mum had hidden all of our Game Boys. Like, God, of course I would have checked the fruit bowl for the Game
No
Boy.
one would check the fruit bowl. The one place she was smart to know, you know?
Hiding under the bananas.
Oh, my fucking God.
That is brilliant. That's such a clever parent move, isn't it? The fucking fruit bowl. They're never going to look in the fucking fruit bowl.
You evil bitch!
Yeah. The other sleepover thing, me and 2 friends of mine, we maybe had, I don't know, 6 or 7 sleepovers together, the 3 of us over the years, and we always tried to beat Ocarina of Time in one night.
No way.
Which, despite not knowing any speedrun strats, like one of my friends, he'd printed out a guide before to like bring to the sleepover. Be like, I've got the instructions, and had like fucking 50 pages.
Printing stuff out was such like of time as well. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like you had to like go into your school printer, like go onto the website where it's like Ocarina timeof.ie, you know what I mean, or whatever it was, like some weird scammy fucking website that had like random tips on it.
So we'd always try to beat Ocarina of Time in one evening, and we never got further than like just when Link becomes an adult. Like we maybe got to the Forest Temple a couple times, because that's like if you're going through it at a reasonable pace, there's still like a good 6-7 hours, especially when you're like 14, 15. You're not 100% as familiar with the game and controls.
But you're even walking across Hyrule Field, like from fucking getting from Kokiri Village to Hyrule
Now
Castle.
I know you got to jump backwards. That's the way to do it. You know, you do the speed.
Yeah. Or backwards and sideways, I think, was the way to go, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the way to do it.
With Link. Yeah. Fucking hell.
Do you, out of curiosity, then I have 1 or 2 more last ones before we finish up. Do you have any schoolyard stories?
Any schoolyard stories?
Video game related or otherwise, since, you know, no, you don't have to.
On the schoolyard, like, I remember... So I remember Yu-Gi-Oh cards got banned at my school.
Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh.
But I just didn't give a shit because I was so bad at Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I remember I watched like a couple episodes of the anime and I was like, okay, this looks cool. Went to school and I found a couple of kids that were playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was like, oh, I like the anime. Can I play with you guys? And they're like, yeah, sure. You know, you can use my deck for this match. And I was like, cool. And I was like, who keeps track of the points? You know, the life points.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, you have to do that. And I was like, what? There's not like a counter that just dings off next to me? And they're like, no.
You weren't in the anime.
you have to do the maths. And
it's
I was like,
why aren't the monsters real? Like, do they not appear in front of me and fight?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, nothing comes out the cards. This is bullshit. Get the fuck out.
Oh, fucking cards being banned, man. I never forget a teacher ripped up a Charizard before. First edition Charizard in front of like a fucking friend.
Criminal.
Yeah, that's like crazy. And they actually got in trouble for it too, because obviously the parents knew the amount of money they spent to keep buying cards to get a fucking Charizard and everything else that came with it. And like I remember like vividly the bawling, wailing of crying, like absolutely fucking awful. Just some fucking serious authoritarian fucking like asshole behavior sometimes, where it's like, just take the card.
Yeah,
you
don't need to
destroy
it, man.
Yeah.
Our school, when I was 16 or 17, we did have a bit of a temple run addiction.
Oh, fuck. Do you remember Temple Run, Nisha?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Because I remember my sister would always had the better fucking score and I couldn't beat her.
But we had a full-on leaderboard up at the school. Like, people really, really got into Temple Run. Bless him. There was this one boy who... I remember we found out that he'd spent like £80 on Temple Run.
Oh no, the addiction.
Just wasn't punching the top 20 on the leaderboard at all. So we were like, mate, you need to stop.
Was it because in Temple Run, if you die like 5 times, you have to wait the next day?
You pay for extra gems to reboot yourself and all the rest of it. But Temple Run was a big thing.
That kind of like that game was like. Would I say viral? Like that game.
That was like
really
the first
one of the first
popular.
big apps.
Mobile, yeah.
Like
was that post Angry Birds? I think it was.
Yeah, it was
right?
Angry Birds. It was like Angry Birds, Fruit Ninja, Doodle Jump.
Yeah.
I think those were like the first three.
I remember everyone like Temple Run because the idea was just like it's platforming on rails, right? So it's like you just gotta jump at the right time. So everyone was comparing scores.
Candy Crush is another one, isn't it? That's a fucking
Candy Crush is another big one. I actually hosted a quiz for Candy Crush.
Oh yeah,
a few months ago. Their offices are wild.
Are you serious?
It's just it's like Disney but Candy Crush merch. So the Candy Crush characters are a lot more. I don't want to insult them here, but. Maybe not quite as clean cut looking as Mickey Mouse and stuff.
They're not as identifiable. They're all a bit malformed.
A little malformed. They look like they could be extras in Spy Kids, for the villain guys that are running around. But everything is just like rainbow vomit all over the place.
Deadly.
Very, very nice office, and they did a great crack for the quiz.
Yeah,
they were a good bunch.
Guys, we're fucking 2 hours into a goddamn podcast right now. Is that right?
Sorry?
No, we're 1 hour and 22.
1 hour and 20.
Oh God, thank God! I was reading it there. I was like, Jesus Christ!
Like 120 minutes to you.
I was like, wait, what's happening?
So I know, just time's flying by. We're just having
I know. For a second, I was like, Jesus Christ, where did the fucking time go?
Yeah.
I mean, still, where did the time go? Best game you've ever streamed? Your favorite stream? Something pulling
favorite streams. Well, I know we mentioned it earlier, but speedrunning Super Mario 64 is one of my favorite things to stream. Like cool. A, because I super enjoyed it, but B, it's also just like easy content because the speed run adds stakes and interest to it. There's the constant overarching theme of, will the streamer beat his time? How will he fuck up this time? How will he improve? So that was always there, and that was always super fun.
Yeah.
Other games I've enjoyed streaming, I mean, I do like all my Pokemons. Zelda, I've kind of had a mixed bag with streaming wise.
Right.
I feel that's been.
Which ones have you played?
I've done Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I tried doing Majora's Mask. My hot take with Zelda is I don't think Majora's Mask is that good. Yeah. Well, I think it is good. It's just far too difficult. Right. Like, I remember playing it as a kid and I was like, this is too hard.
The moon is coming for me. I have anxiety. I'm going to burn my N64.
Do you know, I have a thought. Sorry, I actually have a thought on Majora's Mask, right? And it's a bit of a... I might get a bit of stick for this, right? But because I'm kind of with you, I liked it, but I feel like it's almost the cool one to like because it's dark. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm
it's like, do you really like?
You don't want the basic choice.
It's the weird one. Like,
it's
the Ocarina of Time. Everyone knows that game. You're
No, I like Majora's Mask.
No, I went through my emo phase. And my parents got divorced.
Far too difficult.
It was the game I played to get through that.
Yep. I like having a lot of fun with like silly one-off games. So I remember Trombone Champion. That was a hilarious
That's coming to Switch, which I gotta play.
It's coming to Switch. Cool. So much fun.
Nice.
Pokemon Platinum. Great Pokemon game, but I was very, very bad at Nuzlocke in it, and it's still my most streamed game to this day. I think I did 180 hours on it on something stupid.
I think there's that interesting thing as well of between like, and it could happen for the podcast too, where it's like things you enjoy might not always correlate to things you want to make content on.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That's a good
like
show.
for me as a streamer, I really struggle with story-based games because I'm constantly talking and chatting and looking away from the screen.
Moment-to-moment gameplay, excellent. You know what I mean? It's like, jump, will I make the platform? No, lol. You know what I mean? But if it's like, welcome to the exposition of 14 minutes of how I told you of how we broke into the castle siege walls and I had a romantic relationship with my fucking asshole. Do you know, it's like, that can glaze
Red
over.
Dead was a good time. Red Dead 2 specifically was a great time. Other than the fact that I had a very, very big death spoiled for me. But I think... Yeah, it comes with the territory, sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bloody annoying. Like 30 seconds before it happened as well.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Like, fuck, yeah, that's annoying. Spoilers, there's people who piss the bed and accidentally say something, and you can always know when that's happening. And
Yeah.
But then there's the ones where people are just being an
came
asshole.
In and was just like, here, I was like,
do you know when I was
great,
streaming
man.
that game? Like, thankfully I already played it when I was streaming. People used to follow me, and their name was the spoiler. So they'd be like, this. Yeah. So they'd make accounts purely to fuck with you.
What a fucking asshole. I remember when the first... actually, I won't say in case it's people haven't seen it, right? I remember when a big movie came out, right? And for some reason,
I
won't say anything, right? Just in case. Now, it's
what can I know what the movie is?
No, because it's. I don't want to say.
Romeo and Juliet both die at the end.
Basically, there was a very big character of a movie franchise that came back, and somebody died, and somebody on Facebook put on Facebook, this person dies in this movie. Enjoy, you nerds, or something like that. And I was just like, I was horrified. I was like, what a fucking
what's driven you to do this?
Like, this goes back to like, how unhappy are you in whatever is going on in your life right now that this is even a thing.
Oh my god, people who go out of their way to spoil movies, games, anything, is just, it's such a fucking miserable thing to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's a ruffian. All right, I'm gonna give you this one. Give me your top 3 favorite. It can be games or retro games. I'm gonna give you a little hint on retro, and it can only be one game per franchise.
Fair enough. All right, so in third place, this is a game. Of course, I've thought about this, Keith. I've been thinking about this podcast every waking moment since you've invited me on. In third place is a game that I used to play a lot on the Game Boy Advance. A game franchise that I think they should have delved out into a lot more. There's a little game called Golden Sun. Which was a little RPG game where you run around playing as Isaac, who was basically like an earthbender, and then it was basically like Avatar: The Last Airbender. You had an earthbender, you had an airbender, you had a waterbender, you had a firebender in your team, and you had to go out and conquer the world. And it was so good, and I played it so much. And as soon as, not that I've ever emulated a game ever, but I heard that you could emulate the games, and if I could do that, which I've not, but if I could, I might have spent another 50 hours playing through that, which was absolutely incredible.
Very cool.
In second place, this isn't a retro game. This is a very, very new game, but Baldur's Gate 3. Holy moly. It has...
Really?
I have never had a game consume so much of the empty space in my head before.
And particularly, like, the age you're at, those things are harder to come by, you know?
Massively.
Baldur's Gate, sorry.
Yeah, BAULD, or it's like a Dungeons and Dragons.
It's Dungeons and Dragons, the game.
Right.
But it's like, I saw... When Elden Ring first came out, people lost their fucking shit. They were absolutely nuts over this. And I got into Elden Ring and I was like, okay, this is cool. This was my first proper attempt at a Souls-like. And I was like, okay, the world's pretty in-depth and da-da-da. But Baldur's Gate 3 has just encompassed every waking thought. It's been so long since a game has ruined my sleep pattern.
Brilliant.
But I'm literally like streaming from 10 till 3, going from work from like 5 till midnight, and then I'm coming home and playing Baldur's Gate till 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's criminal. But it's so goddamn good. Like, I'm playing it with a friend after this.
I've heard the name, but I don't know anything about the game itself. Is it an online game? Is it I looked up the pictures of it there, and it looks pretty
There's a lot of
slick.
Bestiality in it, and there's a lot of fucking
There's a lot of bestiality, there's a lot of horniness in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Dungeons and Dragons the game. So you create your character.
But it's co-op, is it? Or
it can be co-op. You can do it.
It's not PvP though at any point, is it?
Not PvP.
What's PvP? Sorry,
player versus player.
Person versus person.
Okay.
So it's cooperative. So it's players versus enemies in the game rather than.
But yeah, so you go
cool.
around, you meet people, and you decide the ones that you bring into your party. So you can bring a wizard into your party, or you can bring in the one with the big mummy milkers into your party, or you can bring in the druid, and you want to have sex with them when they're in bear form. There's so many things you can do in the game.
It's crazy.
It's deadly.
I'll get it when it pops out on Xbox. All right, definitely. And what about number one?
Number one, it's gonna be Pokemon.
You gotta pick. Absolutely. You gotta pick
but
one
if
game.
I gotta pick a specific one, I'm giving it to Pokemon Emerald.
Oh, really?
Generation 3 for me. I think I've heard you guys speak about so much about how Nintendo do that great thing of pushing the limits of old technology, like really, really eking every little drop that they can get out of it. And I think Pokemon Emerald, in terms of the sprites, the music, they bring them Gen 3 trumpets in and they just go so good. The villains are hilarious in it. You know, Team Magma wants more land and Team Aqua wants more water. Cool. It's like the stupidest global warming argument ever, and it's so funny to see.
Deadly.
And Rayquaza comes in and fucks shit up. It's great. I think the story's good. I think it's a really well-balanced Pokemon game as well.
Yeah,
I feel a lot of the games are either too easy or too difficult, but I think Pokemon Emerald is right down the middle. Where it needs to be. It's got a great selection of Pokemon, the introduction of abilities. Just an all-around absolute banger game. Because if you've seen any of the new Pokemons, they have such performance issues that are.
I mean, it's kind of like Scarlet and Violet are like the Pokemon games of your childhood dreams, just executed poorly. You know.
Yep. That is exactly it.
I've only ever gone to Gen 2 of Pokemon, and it was only recently. It was only within the last, say, 5 years. So I just consistently played blue and yellow, over and over and over. And then I played Crystal, and I was like, geez, I really like this. The night and day, the whole extra bit at the end, which I won't say in case it spoils it for somebody. And then, but I've never even thought about Gen 3, but the way you are describing it with such enthusiasm and love,
give it a go.
You're selling it to me. Like
I highly recommend it. The biomes are great in it. Gen 3 has got my favourite route in it. Shout out Route 128. If you know, you know. It's just absolutely incredible.
Deadly.
Because I was
the only gripe is that there's a little bit too much water, but it's part of the plot.
Right. The only thing I was saying last time is like when Ruby and Sapphire came out, I had this like fatigue of Pokemon at the time. I was just saying it wasn't intrinsically due with the game, but I think I just played so much Crystal, Silver, Green, Blue, you know, that I was kind of like if I came into that fresh, so I might definitely give it another go as well. Yeah. So that's your Pokemon game recommendation then?
That's my Pokemon game recommendation. Absolutely. Gen 3, Gen 4 in a close second place. But,
oh really? Yeah. Where do you think? What gen? What's current gen Pokemon? Is it like
we're up to Gen 9 now?
9. And where do you think it started to slip?
Or it has it?
Yeah, it's in terms of like the core gameplay. I like that every new generation after Generation 4 really brings in like a new gimmick into the battle.
Okay.
So you might have heard things called Mega Evolutions or Dynamaxing or Z-moves or Terastallizing. They all bring this new thing in. The newest one they brought in, Terastallizing, I actually think is very cool and interesting. Being able to change your Pokemon's type. Yeah. You can change your Pokemon's type to make it immune to moves, and so like if you're a Ghost type and you normally get hit by Ghost type moves, you can switch into a normal type to dodge the tactics. It's very cool for competitive Pokemon. I think they started to slip when they started getting too 3D with it. I don't know. I like the sprite art. I like the 2D-ness of it. I think it worked super well. I know you got to go bigger and you got to go better.
But they just haven't succeeded in that yet.
They haven't succeeded. I'm curious to see where the Arceus Legends line goes down. I don't know if you saw that, but that was way more about catching the Pokemon than it was with fighting it. So you could craft different types of Pokeball. Pokemon were running free. You could sneak up on them. You could jump at them from the sky. Put lures and traps out to catch
and some of that went into Scarlet and Violet, but not all of it. And it was like, it was kind of weird that way. I kind of feel like as well, though, Pokemon games... See, this is the thing I have with Switch, is like, I want a console and I want a handheld. Almost in, you know, to have those two different type of games, and I just feel that like Pokemon's a handheld game.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean. I don't think it needs to be a big console game, you know. But anyway,
I only asked. I realised I made an assumption there as to when did it slip, because for some reason I felt like when the last game came out, remember you were playing it, Keith, and you were like, it's borderline unplayable, or when it first started, was that it was laggy
in terms of its performance. Yeah.
Oh right, I kind of thought the general
graphics are beyond terrible.
Oh
yeah,
right,
like like it's terribly like what I'm trying to say is it's a disgrace that it was being able to be released.
Right.
Yeah.
But the game is good.
Right. It's arguably the most fun I've had with the game. But it's just tragic seeing Pokemon compared to Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
It might be unfair to judge. I don't know,
it's like it's Sonic 06 level of broken.
Oh really? Yeah.
In terms of its performance, but the ideas are great.
Can you? So with a PS5 or an Xbox, whatever, you can get patches. Like, what was the game that came out?
You can get a patch on the Switch as well.
Can you? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Can you get patches on Switches? And updates?
You can get patches.
Don't give a fuck, because
just as often day one patches.
But like once they sell the game, they've made like $50 bajillion trillion, and they're like, well, we'll just make another one.
Yeah.
I feel like they've like, we've already sold it. We owe nothing. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I was mentioning having that Pokemon needle in my arm earlier. Unfortunately, there's a lot of other people that have the same affliction as me.
Sure, so, I'm not even that into it, and I still get them day one.
And it's like, it's just a free money printing machine for them. They could put more effort into it. That would require, more effort.
But I'm sure the effort is also dictated by the people who want the game out to make money too. I'm sure it's not all down to the dev crews. You know what I mean?
I do think.
Sorry, I thought the Pokemon Let's Go, Hey You Pikachu and Hey You Eevee or Let's Go, I thought that was a really nice kind of twist on the older games.
But that's because as well, though, you do love the original games, so like you're getting a nostalgia trip going back into it. But I do love the way that it was less grindy, that your Pokemons can be used for candy for multiples. Like they had some really great ideas there that I love.
You could see the Pokemon. That was the first time I played a game where you could see them when you were walking up to them.
That's a huge.
Overworld. Having overworld Pokemon is so good now.
Yeah.
Like, I've become... I think since starting Twitch, I've definitely become more critical of the games that I'm playing. And I think the thing is I read a lot more reviews and a lot more opinions. But random encounters, going back to the old games and just walking through a cave and getting hit with a Zubat every fucking 3 steps is just mind-numbingly painful compared to now. You're like, oh, I can dodge and dive and duck. And, oh, there's a Pokemon I like. I'm going to go fight that one.
Yeah.
Which... when you've played all the Pokemon games and gone through it so much, it's like you need some of those smaller, I don't want to say irritances, but the smaller annoying things, they need to get eked out to keep the attention and stuff.
I get you. I have, can I throw a curveball question at both of you?
Go for it.
I hadn't planned on asking, but I do typically ask when I asked Mary and I asked Emma. So both of you are streamers. If someone was to come to you and say, I want to start streaming, can you give me some advice? I know it's a very asked question. A lot of people would ask it. But as someone who doesn't stream, or even if someone comes to you and says, I want to get into content creation, I want to do a podcast, I want to do YouTube, do you have any advice? Because I think it's a nice thing to be able to say for people like yourselves who are well seasoned, you know your craft, you're very good at your craft. Can you give some advice to somebody who's coming to you and saying, I want to start start streaming? Do you have any key advice and this is for both of you to answer?
I'll leave Alex answer first. I've kind of given my pieces on it before, but I can summarize.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think the first thing you got to drop when you come into streaming or any kind of performance really is your shame. You got to have absolutely no shame coming into this. And I mean, in terms of what you're creating, but especially with streaming, like in terms of your viewership and your engagement and stuff. Because those first days, weeks, months, years can be rough. I got really lucky that I had 3 friends that were pretty into Twitch. And I was like, fellas, I'm going to start this thing. I'm going to start playing Pokemon. And I'd really, really appreciate it if you just stuck me on the side, because that 0 to 5 viewers platform is hard to get off.
Yeah, very hard.
I think it's completely okay to ask for help, but be careful who you're asking help from.
Okay.
I don't think it's like go into another streamer's chat and just be like, I need help doing this. Like, no, go find a friend, talk it out, read up some stuff, look at YouTube guides. YouTube is your biggest friend when you're starting anything, I think.
Yeah.
Particularly with even just like tech setup, you know, like how to get your
tech
mic
setup is great. I mean, I'm pretty sure like if you didn't know how to preheat an oven, there's a YouTube video showing you how to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
That's I've never heard anyone give that advice. Ask someone for help. That's the first time I've heard anyone, like, and it's very good. It's very good advice.
You are new to something. You can't expect to know everything either by just doing it or by watching it, because you might watch all the big streamers and the people you love, but you don't know, like, oh, it's good to have this thing next to your mouse. You know, make sure don't put your water near your keyboard. I once spilled water on my keyboard and I had to get a new one. You know, make sure like cable organization is actually important, especially if you're moving things around. Make sure that you know to use this program and not that one. This program does this to your GPU. This one does that to your CPU. You know, go look up guides, ask for help, find the information. But then the next best advice is just press go live and do it. I am a big believer of like just get stuck in, get involved,
and you'll find your voice the more you do it.
You'll find your voice.
You have to do. You can only conceptualize for so long. Like you really do have to do. Do you know what I mean? And you just like, and the best way to learn is by doing. In this case, anyway. Do you know what I mean? And you will have technical issues. They will have terrible days. You will have things where everything's broken and nothing works for no apparent reason at all. It's like a mystery where there's a little gnome pulling cables out the back of your computer. And you just don't know why this is happening.
So on the technical difficulties, when I first started streaming, me and my housemates, the flat we were living in, we couldn't get decent internet in there. So it worked out cheaper for all of us to get unlimited data contracts on our phones instead of a router.
Oh, yeah. So you were streaming off your phone.
Yeah, everything in the house was off our mobile hotspots. And I started streaming off my mobile hotspot. Still on my laptop, but the internet connected to my phone. But I'd have streams where I thought my phone was on charge and it wasn't. And then my phone would just die and everything would stop. I'd have my phone overheat when it was too hot in the room. There were all kinds of nightmares. You know, someone starts sending me too many picture messages and my bitrate goes through the fucking roof.
I remember those days.
Yeah, it was a much more chaotic time for sure. But if anyone is listening and thinking of starting, you can do it. You don't need all the tech and the equipment.
No, for sure.
Go through it. A lot of people miss the scuff. They like the scuff.
Yeah.
You know, just
and at the end of the day, like, you know, you're there to try and be some form of authentic version of yourself. And there's a reason you started it. And there's obviously a passion why you want to do it. And obviously it's not for everyone. You might try it as well and find out, oh, I actually don't like this. And that's totally okay too. Which is why it's always good as well, just to, like, you know, you'd be surprised what you have around. There's probably a microphone. You can use your laptop camera if you have to. But, absolutely. You know, and then, like, obviously you can be inspired by different people, but try and go out there and do it for you, right? You're not trying to do it for anyone else to begin with. You want to have fun at very least, that, you know, you've created even a video. And look, if no one shows up to your stream, you can always download the VOD and put it on YouTube. You can fucking edit it around. You know, it's not wasted content. And you're always finding your voice each time you go live, and you're figuring out what you're comfortable with, what you're not. And don't be afraid to have your boundaries either when people do start coming in. I think that's something that I would give advice the most, is like, I think once people first come into a stream, like, oh, I have to have them because they're the only one here. Like, if someone's being a dickhead, just fucking get rid of them. Do you know what I mean?
That's my third bit of advice, is don't be scared of using the ban button.
I think definitely have your good boundaries. I think the best thing you could actually premeditate going in is like, what am I willing to put up with? What do I want? And, you know, if someone says like, oh, you're a noob and like you don't like, and they're like, I'm only joking. It's like, they're never joking. They're like, as soon as they say I'm only joking, they've fucking been found out for what they want. Don't mind doing that. And just do it because you want to enjoy it, and start off with the honest integrity of you're doing it to have fun. And if one person shows up, amazing. If no one shows up, fair enough.
Yeah. Very cool.
It was another day at work.
Very cool. Very nice points from both of you. So fair play to you. They were really nice answers.
Bosa, I think you're well capable of doing your own outro. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can pull something out.
You can make sure you just advertise this podcast, advertise yourself. And you got it, man. Fucking slap it on in. Give all your socials the usual where to find you.
We'll go for it. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Press Any Button to Continue, Season 3, Episode 8. That's right, Episode 9 will be out very soon. What are we discussing, boys? Who knows? It's going to be different from the title anyway. But if you did enjoy hearing this voice, my name's been Alex, aka Barbosaonline. You can catch me over on twitch.tv/BarbosaOnline. You can find me on Instagram at Je suis Barbosa. Oui, je parle français aussi. I got a whole multilingual audience over here. And if you did enjoy the podcast, well, why don't you give a little 5-star rating? That's it, boys. They did crack 100, but we got to crack 1,000 now, don't we? So there we go. We're riding this all the way to the top. Keith, Nisha, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've had.
Brilliant, man. That was fucking... Keith, you should use that as the intro as well as the outro, because that was fucking class.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Toodles.
Bye.